So thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie. This is going to be an extraordinary show just because of the divine way that it came together. And I'll share that in a little bit, but I do want to share a few couple pieces of information that's going on in our world. First, we really want to give our heartfelt condolences to Bobby Grimm. Kelly, who was on our board for a number of years, just passed away. She was fighting cancer and she just passed away. And it just reminds us how valuable life is, that life is a gift, and that at any split moment, it could be taken away from us. So we're so lucky and honored to be able to spend this time with you, and that you're taking the time with us. So know that we're very grateful for you, and Bobby and the entire Grimm family. We are so sorry for your loss. We can't even tell you. Kelly was a very, very, very special individual. We connected when I was a manager at a community, and then she was going to be replacing me, and we just really got along, and we had such a great time going to work, which is a milestone in life, right? When you're enjoying what you're doing, you're going to work. And she was such a special individual. So thank you so much for everything you did for us, Kelly. I know you'll still be with us, so you're very special, very special. Another thing that I want to share is I want to make sure that everybody knows that our comedy show is happening. Laughter, music, and dinner, a night for a cause. It's happening on October 3rd. We hope you'll join us. Jeff Norris is hilarious. Of course, I'm going to be opening up for Jeff, which is an awesome experience to be opening up for such an individual like Jeff, who has done Atlantic City, done Vegas, done cruises, he is such. And Joe Piscopo says he's the funniest man alive. So he really is very funny. So please, please, please join us. We also want to thank the sponsors, Kinetic, Applause. Let me just take a look so I share their information properly, because I can't see it on a piece of paper that's in front of me. I can't find it. I'll let you know later on, but we are so grateful for them for sponsoring our show, and they really did reduce the price to an extreme amount that is just wonderful. So thank you so much. So okay, so back to our wonderful show that we're doing today. A Stitch of Time. Let me share a little bit of intro into how the show came about. Of course, everybody knows that Celeste and Ashley were on the show back in June, I believe it was. And after the show, Celeste is an entertainer. She then became a speech therapist. And Ashley had suffered a stroke. So that was a connection for the show. So after the show's, Celeste texted me. She's like, you have to read this book. It is an incredible book. When I was a speech therapist, I was invited to a seminar. Is that what it's called? What you were invited to, Celeste, the seminar?
Well, it was the American Speech and Hearing Association convention.
Okay.
And Lauren, the author of the book, gave a wonderful presentation.
Yes. So then, she said to me, you have to read this book. She is such an incredible story, such an incredible person, that we reached out to Lauren, and we're so honored and lucky to have her join us today. So that's the how this show came about. But I always like for everybody to have a conversation and really to come to really just talk a little bit about how things happened and how we got here, and Ashley's story, and Celeste is doing on tour with her wonderful show, and Lauren, what she was doing prior as an actress and a producer, and how the stroke affected her. So welcome to the show, everybody. We're so honored and privileged to have you join us today and to be a part of this show. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
That's welcome. So let's start out with, I really want everybody to hear how Celeste is doing on her journey, her journey, and then we're going to have Ashley share her story. And Lauren, we're going to get to you in just a few minutes. Just want to set everything up. So Celeste, can you tell us how you're doing?
I'm currently exhausted, but thrilled to be performing my one-woman show, Crying on the Camino, based on my 200-mile hike on the Camino through Spain. And what happened is when I returned from the Camino, which was after my retirement as a speech language pathologist, after I returned, I was back into the realm of auditioning again. I started to get cast, and then COVID hit, and it really was not a plan. It somehow materialized organically that while I was on the journey, I was with two elderly women who nearly killed me because they were warriors in that they just never stopped, they never ate. And as my first director said, you wouldn't have a story if it weren't for the incongruity between you and these two crackpots. But it wasn't my intention, but COVID hit, and I started transferring what I had said on the trail. Because while walking, I was talking into my phone constantly, saying things like, I think they're going to kill me. I don't think I'm going to make it. And so I just started transferring that which I recorded on the phone to paper. And it started with just little mini presentations in living rooms and libraries since it was COVID. And then the rest is history because I moved to theaters and churches. And I've been fortunate enough now to perform the piece nearly 50 times throughout the United States, in about 15 states, in
Wow.
Spain, in Canada. And here I am,
Wow.
awake and able to meet with all of you.
Before we get to everybody, there's something that stands out in my brain because I've seen your show, and tell us about the pair.
Nobody believes this, but these women, these abstemious women, do not eat for fun or pleasure. The two of them, they're two people for which eating is a rumor. And one morning they went out and were very excited to find a fruit market. And they came back to the albergue very excited to present me with a pear, one pear for the three of us. And as I say in the show, I've grown to love these women, but truly, who buys one pear for three people? And they did. And I follow that up with, I'm Italian, I don't do one of anything. But they did one pear, we split it three ways, and then we were off to bed in the lovely albergue.
Wow.
So that's it.
That's so funny. And the funny thing is that when you call them the sisters, I thought they were nuns. And I'm not
Everybody
the
does,
only one.
yes.
So that's the funny thing, because we were talking on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, the nuns. And like, no, they're just sisters. So that's really the funny thing. That's really the funny thing. So thank you for introducing us to Lauren. We can't wait for her to tell us her story. From what I'm reading here, she was 27, and I was 26, touring a show in Scotland. So we cannot wait to hear your story. But before we do, I just want to let Ashley talk a little bit about her stroke experience, just to regroup and let everybody know your experience as well.
Thank you. So I suffered a stroke about almost 2 years ago. I had an arterial dissection, which I was in the hospital for almost 2 months. I had a craniectomy to relieve the pressure on my brainstem. And like, I don't remember any of this. So it's kind of crazy. Like, I remember it happening, but I don't remember them like taking me to the hospital, doing like surgery. All I remember is they put me in a coma for like, I think 2 weeks.
Wow.
And when I woke up, I was like, I didn't know what happened. And the first thing I asked my mom, I was like, where's dad? He doesn't care. And my dad passed away 3 years ago.
Wow.
So And today's his birthday, which I'm like, happy birthday, Dad.
That's another wink that
Yeah.
you're right where you need to be. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, my mom was like, she's like, this is kind of weird. Like, I don't want to like lie to her, but she's like, oh, your dad's fishing because he loved fishing. She's like, she asked my doctor, she's like, what do I say? She asked about my dad, her dad, and my doctor's like, don't lie to her, tell the truth. So then I remember like what happened and all that, but yeah, I was in the hospital for a month, that hospital where they did the craniectomy. I got transferred to another hospital. That's where I did like rehab for PT. I did OT. I did speech therapy. Did cognitive therapy. I basically went from like a wheelchair to a walker to walking on my own. I mean, I'm still off balance, but I'm still doing PT. I'm still doing OT. But yeah, I'm trying to like better myself and work myself, keep working at it. It's a long journey.
Yeah, yeah. And we're so lucky to have connected. You're
Yeah.
part of our family as well. And your story is just inspirational, and your motivation and your positive attitude really brings a positive, inspiration to those that had suffered strokes, for people to watch this show and to see the three of us still here and vibrant and being able to speak gives a little bit of hope to everybody, especially those that have suffered strokes.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today. We're really happy to have
Thank
connected
you for
with
having
you.
me.
So Lauren, tell us a little bit about your career prior to at the age of 27 suffering your stroke, because we want to hear about your what you were doing, and the active full life you were living, that you were an actress and a producer, I believe.
Um, yeah, I'll absolutely go into that. I just want to, I rarely get an opportunity to be in a group conversation with other people who've had, even similar experiences. So I just want to acknowledge and sort of amplify how impressive everybody here is. And it's so wonderful to be in your company and
Thank you.
and see that you're doing so well. And Ashley, this was pretty recent for you, it sounds like. So amazing. I'm really impressed, and I'm really glad I'm here with you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
Celeste, extra snaps to you for, passing my book along. I feel like I owe you a fruit basket maybe. But in addition to that, like creating art, about your trip on the Camino, and that's really fun. If you're back in Los Angeles, I missed it here. You just gotta let me know when you're here so I can get a chance to see it, okay?
Okay.
I mean, because that really is my background.
Of
Uh,
course.
right. So I was an actor, director, PhD student in New York City at the time of my injury. I was 27 and was touring a show to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. In peak health, it wasn't suffering with any kind of chronic issues that hadn't been resolved. I mean, I was really a very healthy 27-year-old. And it had not been a very successful run of the show, just to be perfectly honest.
What was the name of the show you were doing?
Oh, my friend had written it. It was called Keeping It Down. But, the Edinburgh, I've become very close to a family that still lives there. In fact, my parents just came back from Edinburgh, like, because they ended up staying with that family when I was in the hospital. So they're just like extensions to our own family. But I've come to know a lot about the city, and like Edinburgh is actually a pretty small city. It's a very impressive and very beautiful city, but like when this Fringe Festival comes in town, it like balloons the population. There's way more performers than there are actual residents in
Wow.
the city of
Wow.
Edinburgh. So it's not that unsurprising that, a lot of shows don't get a lot of attention. So we were not we were not having a good run of it. So we went to a bar to, like sing some karaoke, some friends and I. And I was in the middle of a song. I was having a duet with my friend Laura. Uh, and by strange circumstance, my friend was recording it. So I was actually able to see what happened the second. I mean, like
Wow.
it was so instantaneous. I mean, it was not one of those things where I felt a little off or I was unclear. I was just I was up and then I was down. I had an aneurysm rupture in my brain and it was very immediate. And I think they've revised the statistics a little bit recently, so I may be giving slightly outdated information, but people die from aneurysms, like you have a 50% chance of surviving an aneurysm, and the morbidity rates are much, much higher. So if you
Right.
survive the rupture, surviving the next 3 days is a trial, and then the next few months and having secondary strokes and even when you do, you usually live with lifelong issues from it. But
Strokes are the number one cause of disabilities in the world.
yeah, and ruptured brain aneurysms, like finding out more information. These statistics have also changed recently, but I'll be using the same numbers that are in my book because I was sure of what those were at the time. But aneurysms in brains are really common, but people don't know that because why would you be looking in your brain to find if you have one?
Right.
So they're at least one out of every 50th person has an aneurysm in their brain. 1 in 50. So like anytime you're in the grocery store, somebody else has got one.
Right.
But it's 1 every 25,000th aneurysm that has an issue. So, even you have an aneurysm does not mean anything will happen from the aneurysm. Most people live with an aneurysm and die with an aneurysm without dying from an aneurysm. But, because I was young, because there were no warning signs, it was just a strange experience in that way. But after the injury, my life as an actor and a director and a PhD student, that was, took a very hard right turn because I acquired aphasia. So when I woke up from my operation, which was very confusing to me because I didn't know I'd had brain surgery. And I had a radiological procedure for my first brain surgery. Little did I know there'd be a second, but at the time, everyone's like, "Oh, you just had a surgery." And I would feel my head and I was like, "I don't think I did,"
Oh,
Feels
so
like
they
that's
didn't have to cut in. It was done through, I was trying to figure out what
Yeah, the
radiology.
femoral artery down where your groin is, especially in Europe, that's kind of the gold standard because anytime you crack a skull, as I know Ashley has also had, there are all kinds of risks. So if you can resolve that through a neuroradiological procedure, it's often advised. If you were to ask my very blunt neurosurgeon in the United States, he'd be like, "Well, if you came in with that aneurysm here, I would never have done it that way. I would have gone through a craniotomy right away." But
But look how well you are, and
exactly.
maybe it was a divine intervention that you were in that country rather than this country. Not to put any, I never want to put any doctors or any, this is not negative on doctors, but for every person, it's so different. For every person, the needs and how you recover and what they do is so different on each person. So, and maybe it was a divine intervention that you were in Scotland when this happened.
I was very lucky. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just the beginning of a different path because when I had this diagnosis of having aphasia, I was not fully aware of sort of the limits of my condition for all sorts of reasons. But basically, I had largely lost my abilities to speak and read and write. Um, and those things are obviously interrelated, but they're not the same, So one of those features or functions would leap ahead sometimes in my recovery, like something got way better for a while and then something else caught up a little bit. And now I think, gosh, I think it's like, is it 15 or 16? I think it's 16. What is it? It's been over 15 years.
Mine's been over 30, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, you don't hear I don't think most people hear any of that deficit anymore. But for a very long time, uh, you know, one part of it was a lot better. One part of my language would be a lot better than another part of it.
So
And
did
now,
you, let
yeah.
me ask you something.
Mhm.
So I know you had this surgery in Scotland. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the town you're in. What was the name
Oh,
of
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh? But where did you do your recovery? Did you recover? Did they send you back home? When did you transfer back to the United States?
Yeah, it's a weird thing to have a brain surgery abroad.
Right, right, right.
And you're not really supposed to get on a plane right away. So my parents flew from the United States. They were here in Los Angeles, where I am currently in. Um, and and then they stayed with me for I think the next 3 weeks, almost a month, while I was in the hospital recuperating. And then I think a week or two after the hospital, because again, they didn't want me to fly yet. So just for the intracranial pressure, they really wanted things to be a little more stable. And so we stayed there, but then we just bypassed New York. I mean, I went there for I think a day or two with my parents, only because, again, it's better to like repressurize. Like they didn't want us to try to find a direct flight. So
Right, right.
we were stopping in New York, and that is where I lived. So a lot of friends came over to just check in on me. And um but New York chapter was basically closed at that point. Like for me, because I was an actor who couldn't memorize or speak. A PhD student who couldn't read or write, that sort of um though I was very lucky to be alive and that physically I was okay, meaning like a lot of people who've had the strokes, I think we've all maybe have experienced some aspect of this. Like you often have a limp or resensation on one side or the other. So I had very little of that. So I looked,
Fine.
especially since the surgery had been not through my
Right,
head. I
right.
looked to my friends like the same person who went to Edinburgh a few weeks earlier, but had been profoundly changed. So I moved back to my parents' home in Los Angeles, started speech and language therapy 3 times a week. That just became my job, was relearning language. And lucky for me, I remembered how much I loved it. My dad and my mom had met as actors when they were very young, when they were in their early teens and 20s. In Berlin, and they just I had kind of forgotten. You sort of forget the things that form you because you were teeny tiny when you get your interests and things,
Right,
but
right.
doing it again, like having my entire focus being on looking at the intricacies and the silliness of the English language specifically, because it is bizarre sometimes. I really enjoyed the process. I was very, very present focused. And I don't want to make that sound like I had the great like monastic discipline for that. I mean, that really was also the nature of my disorder. It was very difficult for me for I don't know if I could put a timestamp on it, but I was not very able to reflect on the past very easily. Like I wasn't like
Mm,
thinking about what I should be doing because look at what I left behind. Like it was very hard to remember what I was doing or what, it just short and long-term memory was just pretty like
yeah.
offline. If someone were to ask me,
Did
I
you
knew
beat
it.
yourself up on that though? Because
Not at all.
I used to, and I say that because like even at the beginning of the show when I couldn't see the sponsors' names, and I've learned to just give myself grace. Okay, we'll come back to it. Like not to beat
Yeah,
myself up on it. That's something that I've learned to do because we all have to transition into whatever works for us to be
exactly.
able to move forward in that.
Yeah, I wish I had gone on that direction, like that I could have extended that grace with the passage of time, but mine was really much more related to the injury. Like I lacked a lot of self-awareness. Like, and part of that was because I had lost my inner speech. So it has come back, but you know, that voice that goes, how could I have forgotten that word? I've known that word my entire life. This is so embarrassing. Like, I didn't have that like soundtrack under the current of my conversation. So it was a very lucky part of the injury, at least at the times I was in the most acute stages, because it sort of softened the blow. You know, my lack of awareness was in fact a little protective.
Yeah.
And now I've got, you know, two very, not, they're not very young anymore, but one is 9 and one is 5. And, you know, the speed of needs for kids is pretty intense.
But
And
how
so,
blessed how
I
blessed
know,
are
I'm
you to be
so
able
very, very
to
blessed.
get back into the mainstream and to get married and to have 2 wonderful children. It
Yeah.
just really is a wonderful inspiration that your life story, just not only do you inspire people by going to share your story and to tell your story and bring hope, but just your life that you're living is very inspirational to everybody out there that
And
have
it's
had
so
strokes.
kind. It's so kind. And I feel incredibly blessed. I say this with both of these children on the other side of the door. So if you hear the screaming, you may feel slightly different. You know, some need for some sort of Cheerio situation.
I do want to bring Celeste and Ashley into this
Yeah.
conversation. Celeste, Ashley, you suffered from aphasia as well. I did as well. But the truth is that I am so stubborn and so focused that I never once let it deter me. And I mean that's how I am. And I'm too focused and determined to a fault that I've had to learn to take a step back and breathe, you know, and at this age, I'm 63 now. So mine happened over 30 years ago. So I'm just like at this age that I'm finally, because I had I had a 6 month at home, and then I went on to have a daughter, Samantha. And you know, it's just been like this race. I just feel like it's been this race to be able to not only live and not only succeed and prove to other people, but even to myself. And at 63, I'm finally at the age where I'm like, I can breathe. I can savor each moment. That's my new, you know, it used to be, Ralph, one of our co-hosts, says, you know, urgent. That was our word, urgency for life, urgency. I still believe that life is an urgency, but I'm trying to stay in the pocket and savor each moment, like savor the moments with you guys today, to really enjoy the moments with you guys. And that's hard for me. It's hard for me because usually my brain is like over here. Okay, I'm doing this, but what am I going to do next? So I love the fact that we're here today. So Ashley, you suffered from aphasia as well, right?
Yeah. I want to say, Lauren, your story was really inspirational, and you're an amazing talker. Like, how you come across and how you speak is amazing. But yeah, like, I was really hard on myself. I mean, I'm not as hard on myself now, but I still have issues with like, it feels like almost like I have Novocaine on my one right side of my face, my tongue. So my speech is like not very fluent. And when I first had my stroke, I used to be really hard on myself because I'm like, I have trouble word finding, and they worked on that with me. And I was really self-conscious, like going back to work. I'm like, do people like notice this in my voice? Do I sound different? And it's definitely got better, the word finding, but sometimes I have trouble finding words, and I'll be like, what's that word again? And I try to like use what they taught me to like describe what I'm thinking. And then when I do think of the word, I'm like, yes, okay, I thought of the word. I'm really like happy. I'm like, oh, I got it. But yeah, I don't feel like I'm as hard on myself now with my speech because I'm like, this is who I am. You kind of have to accept who you are and how I sound. And that was hard for me in the beginning, like accepting how I am now and not being as fluent. And I mean, I still am hard on myself. Like, I'm like, how come I just can't talk? I used to talk, you know? But yeah, you got to keep moving forward and accept who you are.
We all go through changes, right? And
Yeah.
that leads us right into Celeste, because no matter whether it's a stroke or cancer or financially or bankruptcy or divorce or something, we all
Mhm.
come up with those life changes. And Celeste, I know I could share this because you said it on our last show, the reason you went from your acting into speech therapy is because your husband had something happen at his job. Am I correct in my mind thought?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, and you had to work as a team with your husband to work support the family.
Right, to step up. Um, my parents didn't support theater as a viable career option, although they did support that side of my artistic inclination. But it was the idea that I had to get more than one degree to make sure that I had something to fall back on. So I had separate degrees in theater arts and then in speech pathology, and went on for my master's in that. So while I was performing, I was actually doing Dolly and Hello Dolly. My husband lost his very, very good job. And in a matter of moments, our lives changed. We even had cars through the business. The cars were out of the driveway. So for about a month, I was doing Hello Dolly and speech therapy. Speech therapy during the day, Hello Dolly at night. That wasn't going to last very long, but it's kind of a wonderful little tangential thing that I went back into speech pathology. I started working with autism. In some cases, I say to myself, oh, this thwarted my career. I was on a forward trajectory, but I learned so much in those 15, 17 years as a speech pathologist. But I just want to go back to something that Renee said. Teaching us to really, I know it's mundane to say, oh, stay in the moment. But while walking, there is never a time in our lives, I think, when you are purely, simply walking with no other distractions. You don't have to run to the laundromat. You don't have to run to pick up your daughter at the station. You are just walking. So it's a different kind of thinking. It's a free flow of consciousness. And while walking, and I mentioned this in the show, I think back to my career and the fact that I was always eager to move to the next thing. I happened to be fortunate enough to do 2 long-running shows in New York City. And I say in the piece, it was the best time of my life, but I didn't even know it because I was always projecting towards the next thing.
Right, right.
And what the Camino has taught me is to really relish in what I'm doing. Even now, I don't want to make too much of this show. At the same time, I don't want to make too little of it, because who would have thought that at 73 years of age, I would be traveling all around the United States, performing, not only singing and performing, but telling my story and having my words influence other people, just like the words of both Ashley and Lauren, and the impact that they have on, if you're a good listener, on those around you. And this is kind of a tangential offshoot, but I wanted to get back to something that Lauren said, and now it's completely out of my mind.
You'll think of it. You'll think of it.
And
You'll
I
think
don't even have an aneurysm. But
of
it's
it.
an early
Yeah,
morning.
but you performed last night and you got up this morning and you're 3 hours difference, like Lauren. They all got up to be on our show at 5:45. They probably have to get up at 5, and so 5:45. So we understand, Celeste. We
Oh,
understand.
wait a minute, but I do remember now.
Okay.
Good.
Lauren was, look, it's out of my mind again. Move on.
I
I
do
do
want to say something to
Yeah.
Ashley. You sound wonderful. You're
Oh,
doing
thank you.
a great job.
Thank you.
You're it like and in the United States and actually in the UK as well, they say, your time of recovery for your
Mhm.
speech is like 6 months. And you know, of course, that's completely bogus, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Mhm.
that was like set up by insurance. Like that's like we don't want to pay any further.
Yeah.
I have had the lucky opportunity to work in different communities, and one of them was the veterans community, like VA. And like they get speech therapy, veterans, forever. If they want it, they can keep doing it. Now, I'm not, that's neither here nor there. I'm not trying to say the VA is so much better than one thing or the other.
Mhm.
But I'm saying like removing that like blockage to say, oh, it's over. You
Mhm.
can just keep going.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we don't have the resources financially
Yeah.
often to like do it in a structured way. But I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, that my language is still improving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can
Yeah.
give you a very specific example. Like, I still use compensatory strategies. Like, I still have text to speech. I listen, like, an email comes to me, I still have it read to me.
Mhm.
Uh, although now I don't have to read every single one that way. Like, there so simple ones, short ones. I can basically like, I got it. I can scan it safely.
Yeah.
But when it's really something that is important, I have to have it read aloud to me.
Mhm.
But when I stopped needing to do every single one, I was like, oh, I can do this again. Like I
Right.
can scan something. I picked up a book the other day and I was like speed reading a little bit. I was like, I can do this now. Like I can scan this. Like, but I mean, we're talking almost 20 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
And this came to be last year or something. So I just wanted to, congratulate you on what you're doing and how great you've got it right now. But like, remove that whole thing. If you want to
Mhm.
keep working on it, keep
Yeah.
working on it because there is no end and
Yeah.
there's no
Thank
end
you.
date, for what you want to sound like or do. It's, refining it and like focusing on what interests you
Yeah.
it is really important. It's like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people. I worked in a disability center for people who had language disorders in London for 4 years. It was a voluntary position at a place called Connect.
Okay.
And there were some people who, they were already retired, they were gardeners, like they didn't actually want to, you know, get more and more precise. And that is
Yeah.
fine. That is totally fine.
Yeah.
But for people who really, want to narrow and refine
Mhm.
and get tighter and more precise, like that's also fine. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's doable
Yeah.
and like worthy. So please, I just hope you want to know that like you're amazing. You've done
Thank
so
you.
amazing already, and like you can keep being amazing. Like it's
And yours happened so recent, Ashley. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
you
And
know,
that's why I'm so impressed. You're
yeah,
doing
Yeah.
wonderful.
yeah. And the truth is, like, I mean, if you look back after 3 months, 6 months, and 10 months or 12 months, you'll see
Mhm.
the improvement that you've had. Just go day to day. And the truth is that working is good and just talking is good.
Yeah.
And I mean, to this day, when I get tired, my brain is one of the things
Mhm.
that gets affected,
Yeah.
but I've learned from a
Yeah.
mentor of mine that just be honest with people. Say, I'll get
Yeah.
back in the morning. I'll get back to
Yeah.
you. I'll get back to you. I can't answer
Yeah.
that right now. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. And
Mhm.
that's not like you have to, and this is from me. I used to beat myself up because, oh my God, I had a stroke and I can't think. And, but
Yeah.
the truth is, like I said prior, I've learned that everybody has something going on in their
Mhm.
lives. And you have to be great, as gracious as you are to everybody else. You have to be to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's I'm working on that daily.
Yeah.
But you're like Lauren and Celeste, say that you are doing extraordinary
Thank you.
work in your life.
Yeah, like part of my job is presenting to clients. So in the beginning, when I first came back, I was like so nervous to present to clients again. I'm like, am I going to remember? I had to write everything down so I can like bullet point what I want to say. And now after like presenting a few times, I'm getting more confident. So it's definitely helped me. But yeah, I feel like once you do it a few times too, you definitely like get over that scared aspect of things. And I'm like, it's kind of like I'm like, I shouldn't care what people think, you know. I shouldn't put weight on what others think about me because, you know, I've been through something and I'm actually doing something.
Yeah, and you're doing remarkable to even get back to work and to
Yeah,
even get up there and present. Like they have no idea the courage that it
yeah,
takes to do that. Like
that's huge. Yeah,
especially after having a brain trauma, right?
yeah.
A brain
Mhm,
trauma, it just scatters our brains, and we
mhm,
don't have any 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 boundaries to help
mhm,
us to figure that out. And I'm
mhm.
sure that everybody around you, your family and stuff, were all
Yeah,
supportive of that to
yeah.
help you. That's why we believe that. That's why my concert was
Mhm,
called the Unconditional Love Concert, because
mhm,
love is the answer, right?
mhm.
Love is the answer to everything.
Yeah,
That comes before. I mean, it ties with the doctors when you first have a stroke or you have a brain aneurysm or something happens in your life, but it's
mhm,
right up there with recovery, because if you don't have love and you don't have recovery, you're it's sad. It's sad. So we're all blessed to have the support and the recovery and the love to make us be there. So you just smile at them, just smile at them, and
yeah,
just do your work. And the other thing is, like, it is internal. Like
yeah.
I mean, even when I do things, and step out of the box, I have to know that I'm doing it for me. Like even these shows, like I try to go above and beyond every single show I do, because I want to make sure that I'm just doing what I need to do for it. And
Mhm,
then I put it away and then I go on to the next one. So it's just about doing the best you can for yourself, the best you
mhm.
can for yourself. So, right, Celeste, you've done learn that in your journey with your show and stuff.
Absolutely.
Especially because they're hard, right? Like you said, that sometimes you have a crew and sometimes you don't.
Oh, please, yes. Uh, but I find, rather than my theater thing, it's just so fascinating listening to the two, well, all three of you. But Lauren, I have a question for you. If I'm understanding correctly, when it occurred, it is like you lost that reflection on what you had lost. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
and in a way, that's, as you were saying, that's so protective
Yeah.
because your concentration was purely focused on getting back what you had lost.
Without knowing what was exactly lost. Yeah, exactly. It was very present focused for a very several months at least. Um, of like pure present tense
Right.
experiences.
Present tense. So for Ashley, I would imagine a hard task, but if you could forget, the concentration on what was there before, that
Mhm.
fills you with a kind of whoa, and just zero in on, you know, getting better in what
Yeah.
might be with your reading capacity. And I think that's what you're
Mhm,
describing, that there are
Mhm.
those inroads and celebrating those little inroads. Well,
mhm,
today I was able to function reading this and I comprehended it more,
mhm,
I guess easier said than done. But it was interesting hearing Lauren's experience with it because,
mhm.
as uh, disturbing as that is to think, wow, I lost all this. But if your concentration is not on that, then you're just working on improvement.
Mhm,
So it's
Yeah,
just fascinating to listen to.
I used to think because aphasia, as you know, can be a very isolating experience. I assumed everyone had it that way, just to be clear. And when I worked in that aphasia center and I met several people who were young, but another woman I got along with very well, who had also had had her stroke very early. I was like, oh, do you kind of miss that quiet though? Like, I know just between you and me, obviously we want to be better, blah, blah, blah. But like, do you miss like not thinking about, reflecting on what you missed or that like that inner voice you met? She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That was always there. And I was like, oh, like that was like very earth shattering for me. It sounds like you never lost your inner voice. It sounds like you still had that like um judgmental like awareness of each step of the way. Is that right? Ashley, is that right? Did
Oh
you have
yeah,
an
yeah.
inner voice, or it was all pretty much as it was, you just struggled with getting words out?
Yeah, I feel like it was always there. Like I had to remember certain things, but I remembered like when someone told me.
Sure.
But I feel like that inner voice was always there. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was always comparing myself. Like when it first
Yeah.
happened, I used to cry a lot because I used to be like, why did this happen to me? Like, and like I used to be able to do this so easily. I didn't think about this. But yeah, I feel like it was always there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there is something that's kind of terrifying to not know, like that I didn't know all the loss I had. Like, oh
Mhm.
God, how wrong I was. But
Yeah.
now that I've met so many people who had similar experiences, and many people did say in that aphasia center that they had the experience that I have the inner voice like being gone for a period of time.
Mhm.
But like I wouldn't change it either way because it is a lot harder to have full awareness and still pursue on. Like I think probably I wouldn't have had as much development if I was able to see like day one, like I've lost everything and I'm gonna have to build everything again. That would
Mhm.
be terrifying. And I want to really emphasize that I didn't have that discipline. Like
Mhm.
I had a lot of luck in that way, like not being able to see myself clearly in those moments gave me the opportunity to really just grow.
Yeah.
And this is so unrelated, Celeste, but I keep wanting to like honor you. I'm so grateful. I wish all speech therapists had acting backgrounds. It's such an important job. And I've spoken to a lot of rooms full of young, speech and language therapists like about to get their degrees. And in general, they're lovely, but they all have these like wide-eyed, like I'll help with kids, I'll help with old people, and they just don't have like it's very scary for them to like encounter someone who's their age who has a stroke or somebody who is just different from what they expect in their textbook. And like an actor just knows how to pivot and how to engage in real time. Like when they see something different or experience something different from the client, they can just like let that change of adapt in real time. And there's a lot, I've just seen a lot of speech therapists who are again so well intentioned and so delightful just freeze when something happens and they're like, I don't want to do this wrong, and like what is this about, you know what I mean? Like if they could just have the ease and the adaptability of someone who is basically improvising,
Yeah.
uh, like all their patients could be all the better served because of it. Because so I very lucky for your patients who had someone like you in their corner.
Oh, I hope so. If and when, and you all should read Lauren's book. I think, Lauren, and I read it a while ago, what was so striking is the manner in which you describe this quiet.
Mm,
Um, it's so fascinating to kind of imagine that. And the only thing I can relate it to in my real life is now that I'm older, I sometimes have difficulty falling asleep and
mm,
trying to erase the noise in my head, through yoga, through breathing, and the difficulty of erasing the noise in my head. And I think of you who
mm,
experienced that, to have that quiet. Um, So it's a fascinating thing to read, and you really describe it in such a illuminating way that I long for it.
To be perfectly honest, sometimes I won't long for it too, because again, the urgency of children is like grateful. I'm so, so grateful. I wouldn't have it any other way. But it's, it's hard to sit in your meditative state when like the needs are constant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have a hard time sometimes getting there myself, you know, because I'm not, I was a very lucky person to be 20, at 27 to have, yes, I had obligations. Yes, I had a job. Yes, I was in school. Yes, I had a boyfriend, things like that. But those are kind of superficial commitments, meaning like I could stop everything and start again. It's different when you have children. I know Renee said that she had a daughter before, right, Renee? You had a child before and
Yeah,
one after. That
yeah.
never stops. Once that has turned on, it cannot be turned off. It is not superficial. It is not something you'd be like, just wait for me like a year and a half, and then I'll be cool to help you with your needs.
Well,
Like,
the
do it.
truth
You
is
gotta do
that
it.
my mother-in-law and my grandmother, who were both divine, they went around the clock for my kids. My grandmother was the
Amazing.
one here at night. My mother-in-law was during the day.
Amazing.
But when I came home, I'm like, I'm okay. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm too focused. Like, okay, I'll take care of it. Where I really should have allowed them to, to help and to navigate. But
Mhm.
everything worked out. But I understand it that it's just like that's why I'm saying like how many years has it been? I'm 63 and it's 26. And just now, right now, at this particular moment, I'm saying to myself, okay, I want to savor the moments. I want to like I'm finally to that point where I could breathe and take a deep breath and enjoy the moments. So it's but I would love to share that with everybody just to take the time, even if it's in the car, even it's when you go to the bathroom, even it's when you walking from here to there, like just capture those split moments, those little bit of silences that you can just to appreciate life because it's so short. It's so short. It's a gift. We don't know when it will be taken away from us, and that's the blessing. That's the blessing. So we only have 4 minutes left, but I really do want to give everybody the opportunity to, and Lauren, I'd love to have you back to continue this conversation, because, the information and storytelling and stories really do bring awareness to how to recover and how life is a gift and how to deal with things and so we'd love to welcome you back to our show. We're
I
so
would be delighted. It's
we're,
a great show. Thank you.
thank you. And that's why I want to share. That's why we call this stroke of luck, right?
Mm.
Because my stroke was a stroke of luck. So it was a stroke of luck that I had it for many various reasons. One is that, I learned my purpose and, I got stopped in the moment to be able to enjoy, the journey, so thank you so much. So I want to give everybody the opportunity to share like their last thoughts of the day, because I think, as much as this show has been an hour, we've been talking for an hour and it feels like 5 minutes because we just been sharing our information. But what would be the thing that you want everybody to remember, like to take away from this show? So I'm going to start with Lauren because I started with her last time. But Lauren, what is your like? What would you like everybody to take away from this show if you had? I mean, I'm sure you'll think of something later on. Uh, you know but it's just to be continued. As I said, we're going to have her on again, and Ashley and Celeste, but just like just to let everybody thinking, that's all.
Well, personally, I said, I'm thinking about community. I'm thinking about being around people who have different experiences to work with. But maybe for the people who are watching or listening who've recently had a stroke, you know, community is important, so is solitude, so is, you know, every part of the journey. But, you know, what I said to Ashley, I think is not nearly reinforced enough. I mean, it like we all get put in boxes about when we should be ready.
Yeah.
You know, when we should be ready to be exactly who we used to be or better.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? First of all, you might already be on a journey of not getting back to where who you were or what you were, but you might be on a journey to something that is better, you know? And more importantly, there is no time frame. That is the thing that I think a lot of us get so hamstrung, especially when you're younger, when you have a stroke and you watch other people hit milestones and you are stuck in a different place. I would just want everyone to realize that like there is no end date. You know, you are on the journey, and the more that you engage with your own sense of curiosity, as opposed to just like beating yourself about why is that not working, like what is interesting to you? What do you want to keep understanding or learning like that? And that's a forever journey.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much. Ashley, what would you like people to take away from this show?
I would probably say make sure to be kind to yourself and love yourself. I put up positive affirmations on my mirror, and I try to like talk positively to myself every day because I want my brain to like rewire itself to like be positive and love myself.
That's awesome. That's excellent. Thank you, Ashley. Celeste, what would you like everybody to take away from this show, except for thank you so much for introducing us to Lauren. Her book is called A Stitch of Time. Where can they find it, Lauren?
I
It's
mean,
by, it's by
it's
Simon
certainly
and Schuster,
available
right?
on Amazon and any, but maybe your local bookstore might still have it.
It's
I,
okay.
you know, it was in wide release. Was in hardback and paperback. So put it in a Google search and find out where your closest place for it is. Support your local bookstores. Uh, but if you need an Amazon, it's there too.
And it's by Simon and Schuster's, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is published through Simon and Schuster.
Wow, that's awesome. Go ahead, Celeste.
I just want to say, as a message, that it is a privilege to listen. I'm a yacker. I'm a talker. So I allow myself to sit back and to listen. I learn so much, and I try to follow the adage, not my quote, but be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle that you don't know about. And that's a good takeaway.
Even if they have a smile on their face.
That's
Mm.
right.
They have a smile on their face. Thank you so much, Celeste. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. We'll continue this conversation at another time. I do want to share, as I said and the promise at the beginning, I want to thank the sponsors to our Laugh Music and Dinner A Night for Cause, which is on October 3rd, 2025. It's in the Wanacue First Aid Building. And the sponsors, first, I want to thank Diane Bromberg for her leadership and just being a part of our organization. She does this an extraordinary job, and it's selfless what she does for us and for everybody. So we want to thank Diane for being Diane, but she's the one that got these sponsors. They're part of her group, which is the Senior Resource Group of New Jersey, Kinetic. They're a home therapy service. Please use them. Please look them up if you'd like. Historic Speakers for Seniors. It's a dynamic organization, and also Applause Home Care. They're all wonderful, really heartfelt organizations and companies that do things from the bottom of their heart. They're not looking, yes, we all have to profit from our businesses, otherwise we're not going to succeed. But they worry about the people first to make sure that everybody's healthy, safe, living a wonderful life. And I recommend that you check them out. So thank you so much. On 3, we always blow our kisses if you feel comfortable. And we're gonna start right now. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. See you next show. Bye.
Bye.